Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
And this week, we are watching Mystic Pizza, a film that I don't really know much about. It's one of Julia Roberts' earlier films. This is Pretty Woman. Honestly, I don't know much about it, except that it is not about magical pizza.
Oh, well.
Are we not watching the movie now?
For this movie, we have a very, very low bar. It has to be better than Metal Storm.
Yes.
The destruction of Jared Sin.
The destruction of our will to live.
So, at the very least, it's got Mystic Pizza in the name. There should be something mystical or pizza-like in it.
Well, honey, I'm afraid the mystic in question is just Mystic, Connecticut.
That's fine. It's promising one thing as long as it delivers on that, as opposed to the destruction of Jared Sin, which we didn't see.
Yeah. He's not destroyed.
No.
And I don't even know what Metal Storm means.
No.
If you can tell, we're still a little traumatized by the last episode. Yep. Yeah, so we needed a change of pace after the last couple of episodes. And I thought, well, I've never seen this film, but I've, heard people talk about it positively. Yeah, so here's what I kind of know. Again, I know that it stars Julia Roberts. It takes place in Mystic, Connecticut, and I believe these are girls working in a pizza parlor, which is a town I've never been to, but I'd like to because they have ships, and I like ships. So, I hope we get to see some old boats.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about Connecticut, although you have family there and we've been there.
Right.
And but they live outside Hartford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of in the middle of nowhere.
But yeah, so Connecticut is, I always forget that they have beaches because I tend to think of Connecticut as, that suburb of New York. And
you can get poutine there.
You can. You can get poutine a lot of places these days.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Connecticut feels like the gateway to Canada.
And so is Mystic Seaport like, a maritime province in your mind?
Yeah, a little bit.
Cool. So yeah, you can tell we don't have a lot to say about this movie because I don't really know what it's about. I mean, I saw a blurb that it's a coming of age story and girls work in a pizza place. I don't know. That's all I know. Oh, I feel like there was some TV show that had a parody of like a off-Broadway show about. Was this a 30 Rock bit? I'm trying to remember.
Sure sounds like it.
Yeah, I feel like there was a 30 Rock bit about doing like an off-Broadway show of Mystic Pizza, but I honestly, and somebody like it would have been like Jenna having to eat pizza night after night after night. I don't remember if it was 30 Rock or not, but I'm going to go with it. So I assume that pizza is involved because pizza's in the title. It takes place in Mystic Seaport, Connecticut. So, is it a beach movie? I don't know. Again, I'm spinning my wheels because I don't know what to say about this movie.
Who do you think the bad guy is?
That's the thing. I don't, like probably somebody she dates.
Right.
If there's a bad guy, it's because some dude is not a good dude.
Yeah, probably the guy she's dating in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And then Hugh Grant or something comes in.
Yeah. This is not that movie. At this point, Hugh Grant was, I don't know, what's British for zygote? Zedgoat.
Yeah.
On that useless introduction. Sorry, we're just getting back from vacation. We went on vacation. My brain is still down the shore. That's the other thing. Like we're gonna watch this movie. It takes place in like a tourist town, and my brain is still a tourist. So
You know what? We did have pizza after we watched
had a lot of pizza.
Green Knight or Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we watched The Green Knight yesterday, and first of all, awesome. Second of all, yeah, we've eaten a lot of pizza between the last time you heard us and today. Because we spent a week down the Jersey Shore, and it is oh my God, we ate so much pizza.
Yeah, we had almost the appropriate amount of pizza.
We had a mystical amount of pizza. Almost an appropriate amount. Good God, Dennis.
Well, should we go watch it?
Yes. So I'm going to say something that hopefully does not irk anyone. And I say this acknowledging that, maybe I'm being a little, I don't want to say over the top or hyperbolic, but here's the thing. They don't really make movies like this right now, and it makes me sad. It's not that I don't like the films that are in the theaters necessarily, because, I mean, look, I've seen all of the Marvel movies. I've seen all of the Star Wars movies. I go to the big franchises, but they're popcorn movies. This is a different type of popcorn movie that I wish were still being made, but they don't really make them, right? It's not that movies about friendships or romances don't exist entirely anymore, but you either have to watch Hallmark movies, which are not as well done.
Hey!
They're not. I'm sorry. And they don't get the same budgets. They don't get the same level of writers. They don't get the same level of stars.
You apologize to Lacey.
But here's the thing. I enjoy them on a certain level, but they don't have the same money thrown at them.
Right.
And I've seen the take online that, but TV is better now, so we don't need movies like that. And I don't believe that's true at all. Yes, there are certainly, were for a while there great television shows. Nowadays, I don't know. Things are we are in flux,
I think people just assume there are.
I think I think that's true because it was true for a while. But look, right now we are in, as Gramsci would say, the time of monsters. So we don't really know what is going on right now when it comes to media. I miss a movie like Mystic Pizza. It's not the full-on cinematic classic of Moonstruck. Moonstruck is just an amazing film on many, many levels, and Oscar-winning, etc. Mystic Pizza is not as good as Moonstruck, but it's very enjoyable.
It's close.
It's up there.
Yeah.
It's up there. It's much more than I was necessarily expecting, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Like, I think a lot of films now, like if it's going to be about friends or whatever, it's usually a comedy.
True.
And just a comedy. And like Booksmart was, closer to this something like this, but it's still comedy.
Yeah, Booksmart still falls into the wacky comedy category. And Booksmart I enjoyed a lot. But unfortunately there's not a whole lot out there like even Booksmart. It's not even that things have to necessarily be about female friendships or whatever. But yeah, it just does not feel like there are too many things made in this mode anymore. And what killed it? A lot of things. Media consolidation is, I think, the biggest thing. It's not just like, the box office went to first straight up fantasy, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, and then to the superhero franchises. I mean, that is part of it, but it's also just there's been a lot of media consolidations. It's a complicated thing what happened.
I think it's also like Hollywood likes to compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
And just turn into a formula. So, like, romance movies became Meg Ryan movies.
Yes, exactly.
Like 90s were just nothing but Meg Ryan movies.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. And they killed it.
Yeah. They just kind of whittle it down until it was just a formula, and then it got tiresome.
So then what you end up with is a lot of like Nancy Meyers movies, which are pretty much only targeted at like boomers. Everybody in like a Nancy Meyers film is very wealthy. right? Yeah. I'm sorry, I'll never be, Diane Keaton in a turtleneck in a house on like Long Island or Connecticut. What I would be is closer to the girls in this movie working at Mystic Pizza in a fishing village in Connecticut.
Right.
So let us get then to the meat of the movie. Mystic Pizza is the story of 3 young women who are around college age, although only one of them is headed to college, living in the town of Mystic. These 3 young women are working class. They all work at this pizza parlor, Mystic Pizza. 2 of them are sisters, played by Julia Roberts, who plays Daisy, and Annabeth Gish, who plays Kat. Annabeth Gish we just saw in Shag.
We saw Shag, we're like, this is a great movie. I wish it didn't have a Confederate flag featured in like prominently in 3 different spots. And our timeline rewarded us with this movie, which is that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, let's remove all of the problematic elements from Shag. Here you are.
Yeah.
And it's not that there aren't like things in this film where I was squinting a bit. Specifically Jojo, the 3rd girl who works in the pizza place, and her marriage. The film starts with her in the middle of the wedding ceremony calling it off because it's in a Catholic church, and the priest is really hammering that divorce will send you to hell. So
there's a great shot from inside her veil too, which
yes,
is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that shot.
There's this is visually, it's not like a remarkable film, but there's some nice stuff in it. And the inside the veil shot going up the aisle and being more and more claustrophobic is really nicely done. Jojo, by the way, is played by Lily Taylor, who has been in a lot of things, 6 Feet Under and stuff. And she's good in this. I like her in this. So she is getting married to Bill, who's played by Vincent D'Onofrio. This is pretty early in D'Onofrio's career. Not that super early. I mean, this is post him playing Thor, the mechanic in Adventures in Babysitting, but it's early on enough. He is one of the fishermen in town, and so they're going up the aisle. Well
cast, by the way.
He is well cast. I really like him in this. Yeah. I mean, because he's just a lunk.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty amiable lunk. She just flips out at the wedding, passes out, and says, "I'm not doing this. I can't do this." And when you think about how young all these people are supposed to be. And she goes into a whole thing later in the film about like, I don't want to lose my identity. I don't even know who I am yet, etc. Of course, she doesn't want to get married. So if I have a problem with the film, it's like that her whole storyline then gets resolved with her deciding, no, I love Bill and we're going to get married. And I'm like, I mean, that might be true, but it feels so self-limiting at such a young age.
She feels kind of sketchy as a character.
Well, yeah, she's not. It does revolve around these 3 women. She is sort of the lesser partner because she's not one of the sisters, and her tension with Bill. She does have somebody that she's in love with. The way that the film kind of frames bookends the story with her wedding getting called off in the end of the film. Spoiler alert is her and Bill's actual wedding going through. Yeah. She is much more of a device, I think. To bounce off the two sisters.
It almost feels like it was added by someone else, maybe. Like it feels like, oh, we need something else other than these 2 sisters.
Yeah, they needed something to anchor and give a sense of what the life is like in the village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of details about Daisy and Kat.
Yes.
That just feel like real people.
And part of that is also just those 2 actresses are great in the roles. Julia Roberts plays Daisy, the older sister. She takes on this like an air of toughness. She's a towny party girl. She's mostly unapologetic about the fact that she's not ready to settle down or be what people think is grown up. And there is a scene in the film where her mother confronts her on this and just like, I'm worried about your future. And she says, yeah, I mean, I'm worried too, but what else is there really for me to do? Because she's not somebody who wants to go to college. And frankly, she shouldn't be expected to go to college, Right. Her sister, Kat, is going to go to college, and she's going to Yale. She's studying, astronomy. She is the good book smart kid who is going to try to make something.
She should find some nice Yale guy.
Oh my God. Yeah. So part of the story is, this takes place in autumn. And it was, contemporary to when it was filmed. So it's not like it's a period piece. So it's set in autumn. So this is after the tourist season. They've largely gone home. Connecticut is one of those states where there's like a lot of those old country houses from like the Gilded Age. And nowadays other rich people live in those houses. The names may have changed, but the social stratification is basically back where it was, 100 years ago. And even that was already starting in the 80s. Kat ends up being the nanny of a young girl for a guy who is the, I guess, chief architect on renovating one of these Gilded Age houses.
Yeah, Tim.
Tim is his name. And she's young. She's taking care of the child. She develops a crush on this guy, and he is not dissuading her, despite the fact that his wife is coming back from London at some point. But at the same time, I don't know if he's intentionally or unintentionally sowing this idea through his daughter that, things aren't great with the wife. It's that line that a lot of dudes will pull when they're married, but they want to get something on the side. Oh, my marriage just isn't in a good place these days. And with Kat, she's young and she's a bit more naive. She's book smart, but she's not entirely as people smart as her sister Daisy is. Daisy, meanwhile, at one of the local bars, ends up trying to show up a yuppie who comes in with a bunch of his friends by playing pool. You pointed out something that's really annoying because she plays pool and she basically kicks their butts. Right. And one of the yuppies is like, oh, we've got a hustler here. And as you pointed out, she's not a hustler.
No, a hustler loses first.
Right.
And then,
is playing for money.
Right.
She's just showing off.
Yeah.
She's not a hustler.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually kind of important to her character. They call her a hustler. She's never hustling these guys. No, there's nothing dishonest in her.
Right.
And I think that's actually kind of an interesting little scene because it's like she's not a dishonest person. And that is important to the movie because she's never after this guy for his money. He is using her as a sort of, I'm breaking away from my parents. I'm kind of slumming it with this, waitress. I'm going to prove that I'm above my upper class family. And he's never really taking her seriously as a person. He's just using her the whole time. And she calls him out on it.
But man, he's a dreamboat though.
Oh God.
He's got his collar turned up. He's got a Porsche.
He does. He has a red Porsche that when she sees him at a country club with what she assumes is another woman, oh my gosh, they take Fisherman Bill's tanks of fish and dumps it in his Porsche.
Now, in his defense, it does turn out to be his sister.
Yes, it does. And no, she's in the wrong, and she's immediately like, "Oh no, I'm completely in the wrong, and this is not a good look." She was very drunk at the time.
See, a lesser film would have ended with her getting him.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, wow, she got the cool guy with the Porsche.
Oh, she got Prince Charming.
Yeah. This film is smart in that it kind of just lingers on it and thinks about it.
Yeah. They kind of patch things up, and then he invites her to dinner with his family. She goes and puts on a very fancy black dress. Like, like a cocktail dress, like, to take to a fancy party. Not realizing that, these are the type of rich people who, when they get together, they are dressed down. It made me think about like watching The Crown when they would, the royal families all just hang out wearing like cardigan sweaters and like regular slacks. Because there's something that a certain level of rich person does where they're like intentionally trying to not appear rich, and it's almost sort of like rubbing your nose in it a little bit that they can do that. And
the thing is that a lot of those, what they're wearing is actually still really expensive stuff.
Right.
It just looks really expensive.
So she is obviously embarrassed, but is trying to make the best of things, despite being way overdressed. He makes a scene about the fact that they're dating at the dinner, and the family is, just embarrassed by his behavior. She is thoroughly mortified because he starts making a whole thing about like, oh, you just think she's a dumb Portuguese. Makes this whole scene, and she's just like, look, you're just using me to like get your parents angry at you and to come up with something to distract from the fact that you failed out of law school, which you didn't have to do. Eventually, they do reconcile to some extent. 100% at the wedding at the end of the film. But she has this whole scene where she says, yeah, I don't know where this relationship is going. They leave it very open-ended, and you get the feeling that at a certain point she's going to be tired of his shtick. The dinner scene with the family did give us two of our moments of, oh my God, we have to stop the film. Because his younger brother, it's a very brief scene. I think he only has like one line, but the younger brother, who has a very kind of douchey look to him, is Matt Damon.
And it really is Matt Damon.
It's one of these things where we're watching. I'm just like, wait a minute, stop! And I'm like pulling up IMDb. It's like, yep, that is a young Matt Damon. Yeah. I think might be his first film. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And his character is named Steamer, which I'm sure is like one of those like waspy like nicknames you give. His real name is probably Stephen J. Hampton the Fourth or something. They call him Steamer, which is like just one of those terrible waspy nicknames.
There is another scene.
There is.
Stopped us in our tracks.
Oh my goodness, yes. So there's a scene where so Kat and Daisy, their mother works down at the docks in, I guess it's sort of like a cannery situation. Yeah. In fact, we'll talk about that in a second. But so they live with their mother, and she fell asleep watching television in this one scene, and what she falls asleep watching is Lifestyles in the Rich and Famous. And so they linger on this clip of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and they're talking about this marble extended table, like it's the only extendable table made of marble in the world, and
sounds so trashy, and we're like,
it's just so over the top and gaudy, and there's 42 bathrooms or some insane thing, like whatever, and we're listening to they're just describing this sort of disgusting excess in this house. And I'm just listening, man, that's Lifestyles and Rich and Famous. And then all of a sudden, here at Mar-a-Lago. What? Oh, okay. And for the record, at this time, Mar-a-Lago was owned by Donald Trump.
Oh man.
Yes. So
that was amazing.
That was another moment that just stopped us dead in our tracks. Like their mother, you used to work at a cannery, didn't you?
In Alaska, it's a different vibe.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it is, but
because it's like, oh, I think I'll go to Mars to be in a cannery and then come back. Because it's not like oh, I'm in part of the country. You really feel like you're in space and you're with people from around the world.
Yeah,
it's there was this whole Japanese contingent there, and
that's interesting. Fun. Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, obviously, you working in a cannery in Alaska is not the same thing as somebody being part of a community in New England.
No, yeah. In fact, this was a town. It's an island, where St. Petersburg, or is it just Petersburg? I forget. But yeah, the population is 3,000, and then during fishing or the salmon season, it's 15,000. So
wow.
Yeah.
Didn't you have to live in a tent for a while?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a whole history that is fascinating. And I'll slowly whittle it out of you.
Yeah, I didn't date any sisters while I was up there. Sorry.
No.
But yeah, there's a lot of class consciousness in this film.
Yeah.
It's kind of repeatedly pointed at, kind of.
It is. So yeah, all of the characters that we follow, they're all working class. They have enough money that they're supporting their mother, who works down at a cannery, but their entire existence is built around appealing to rich people as best as they can, whether it's trying to get tips from tourists or working for rich people as a nanny, or if it's just dating a yuppie. Their entire situation is precarious in the sense of they are constantly being exploited. And it's not just because the rich people have the money, but they're being emotionally exploited by these people too. Again, Kat falls in love with this guy. She's the nanny of his daughter, and he uses her. And there's an absolutely devastating scene where it's the night before the wife is coming back, and she doesn't, and I don't know to what extent she even realizes this is that significant. She and him go off to the house that he's renovating, and they finally consummate their relationship. They come back to his house, and the wife is there, and he immediately is, just covering his tracks, and she's devastated because she just was like, wait, I thought we had a thing, and he just completely used her.
Yeah.
And he's more than 10 years older than her. It's absolutely terrible what he does to her,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just a devastating scene where she comes back to the house running into her sister Daisy and just being essentially that she doesn't know how to handle what just happened to her. Yeah. And having to, lean on her sister for some help.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a infuriating and sad scene of just watching this girl who it's kind of implied that maybe this is the first time she's ever been in any kind of a relationship, and she was manipulated the whole time and then just left out to dry.
Like, there's a kind of tragedy about the whole situation because, like, the whole time she's feeling above JoJo and Daisy.
Yeah.
Because JoJo is, she's always trying to have sex.
with Bill, her fiance / ex-fiance.
Daisy at least gives the appearance of having sex all the time. I have a feeling she doesn't have as much sex as people assume she does, but
she's also more forward with people. Yeah. And so, I think she does, to some extent, she holds herself a little bit higher than her sister and friend. And now all of a sudden she's just like, no, I'm not, and I don't know what I'm doing. It's a terrible way to learn that lesson, but, she does learn it. So, it's interesting because it is very much a movie about, people kind of growing up and trying to figure out where they are in the world and where they want to go. And not everybody is entirely successful in finding that moment. I mean, Daisy is kind of left saying, I don't really know where my life is going. I don't know what I want from anything. But I don't think the film thinks that's entirely a bad thing. I mean, Daisy's future is very open-ended. JoJo, at the end of the film, she's getting married to Bill, and they're probably going to have a lot of kids. And she's probably going to take over the restaurant. Yeah. So that's good. I mean, she knows what she wants. She wants to continue the restaurant when the owner retires. And Daisy, we don't know. Kat is going to go off to college. And I think, having Daisy's future be open-ended, I think the film's okay with that. And I think the audience should be, because in part, the movie shows that even though she doesn't have, book smarts, and even though she seems like she's adrift, she's not a stupid person, and she knows how to take care of herself. She's young, but she's not stupid.
Oh, we kind of skipped the Ratatouille moment.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, it is very much a Ratatouille moment.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, part of the thing is that they work in this pizza place, and the pizza is supposed to be amazing. The tourists all love to go there. First of all, let me get just as an aside, let me say that crust does not look amazing.
No,
it's too thick.
Too thick.
It's way too thick. I look. I'm not trying to disparage pizza made north of Westchester County, but that looks a little too bready. But anyway, supposedly, this is good pizza. And
maybe there's something in the sauce.
But see, that's the thing. That's what they say, is that there's something in the sauce. Yeah. And so there's a background story happening where there is a TV food critic called The Fireside Gourmet. Yeah. And
it's very much kind of Robin Leachy too. It's rubbing up against higher class things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This guy has sort of this pretense of, because he's, the Fireside Gourmet and he wears tweed and all this, there is this idea that he is a very pretentious gourmand. And again, it's, these working class people rubbing up against folks who think that they are better than them and definitely have more money. So it's eventually, towards the end of the film, the Fireside Gourmet comes to the pizza place and he orders one slice and leaves, and they just think he did not want anything more. He didn't want a side. He didn't want to take the rest of the pizza home with him. We have absolutely failed. This sucks. He's going to trash the restaurant, because he'll go on TV and trash the restaurants that he eats at. But, of course, what happens, as we said, it's a Ratatouille moment, in that the TV host is like, no, this is the greatest pizza I've ever had in my life. And it ends up being just a complete success for them, and they're able to capitalize on the business because when it's a tourist town and you go to the off season, it's just like, how are we going to keep making money? We have to stretch things out until the summertime again, and to some extent, the idea is that this is going to put them on the map so that they don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So it's a nice little fantasy that is thrown in there, and I enjoyed it.
So maybe it'll work out with Daisy and Charlie too, and she can be.
Oh, I hope not, because he's terrible.
Oh, he can play darts.
Yeah, I guess, but he's not good at pool. So that was Mystic Pizza. I totally recommend it. It's a very enjoyable film. I liked it, and I kind of wish that there were more movies like this being made currently. I'm not surprised that there aren't, but who knows? The pendulum may always swing back. Follow us on social media. We are Mary VS Movies on Twitter. You can always email us. We are maryvsmovies@gmail.com. Please send us any recommendations, any requests, any complaints, comments. You know the drill. Next week, we will be watching True Stories.
True Stories.
The David Byrne film, about which I don't know much. And in fact, I know even less than I thought. And I will tell you about that in the next episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a whole story about that.
Oh. Well, you know John Goodman's in it.
I know John Goodman's in it, and that's part of the story about why I was very confused about this movie.
And you're a fan.
I am very much a fan of John Goodman.
Yeah.
So yeah, that will be enjoyable. Until next time, pizza really should be flatter. I'm sorry. I'm sure it's really good. They said that the sauce is really good, but it's just too bready. It's too bready. I'm sorry, Connecticut, but the best pizza is still going to be in New Jersey.